I can tell you who the Bears are going to take, by the way. I assume you guys already know this, but I can tell you who they're going to take.
Who's that?
They're going to take Jalen Carter.
Do you think he's going to be there at 9, Mike?
I do. I think he's going to be there, and I can tell you, let me make it clear, I am not an insider, none of that. I'm telling you what the buzz is everywhere here, because I've been here since yesterday, and all of the buzz is that Jalen Carter is going 9 to Chicago.
Why do you think, we've been led to believe, McShay told us this last week, Kuiper told us this last week, that he won't get to us, that Detroit, Seattle, maybe the Raiders, if he gets by those two teams. Of the buzz that you've heard, and like you said, you're not an insider, but the buzz that you're hearing, why do you think he'll get to the Bears at 9?
Part of the reason is because I think the quarterbacks are going to start slipping. So what's going to happen is now again, let me make it 100% clear. I don't know these things. I'm only telling you the consensus I'm hearing from the people that are here, and everyone is yabbering. And to be very clear, they don't know either. But if I had to predict what's going to happen, I would predict that Bryce Young is going to go first, and that Tyree Wilson and Will Anderson in some order are going to go second and third.
Wow. And
that is going to throw the whole thing into a state of complete flux, because at that point, I think the Colts take Will Levis. And at that point, C.J. Stroud is all of a sudden sitting there available at 5. And I think teams start maneuvering to try and get him. I think there is a corner, Christian Gonzalez, that everyone is excited about, and I think he goes. I don't think it's impossible that an offensive tackle goes. I think teams are going to come trading up. Anthony Richardson, I think Bijan Robinson is a player that Atlanta really likes. At 8 may be too high to take him. They I believe, might try and trade back and take him. I think that Jalen Carter has, for a variety of reasons, been taken off the boards of a lot of teams. I think there are a lot of teams that just won't touch him. His talent is extraordinary. The questions are equally prominent. And when push comes to shove, if I'm making a bet, I'm betting that he is still there at 9 and that the Bears take him.
When you look at this situation and you zoom out a little bit, Greeny, if the Seahawks draft Carter, and we've had this discussion a bunch, it's John Schneider, it's Pete Carroll. Like, they've got the skins on the wall. Do you believe that Ryan Poles, in just his second year, with his first-round pick ever, has that intestinal fortitude to make that pick with a player that does have some of the red flags attached to him?
I'm going to answer your question with a question. How would you characterize, because you guys know it so much better than I do, the locker room leadership of the Chicago Bears, particularly on defense?
I would say right now it's reliant on the coach at this point, because there isn't, other than Eddie Jackson maybe, there isn't that guy in the room. Maybe Tremaine Edmonds now via free agency, or Edwards, the linebacker they signed from Pittsburgh or from Philly as a free agent as well. But right now, it's not like the same. It's not the same environment, like I said, that you'll find maybe in Seattle.
So that's the enormous element of risk. Is that I think the sense I'm getting is that he is a player who is going to require really strong leadership. And in my sense, my feeling has always been, and Tommy, I don't know what you think, that you can only get so much of that from coaching, and that it needs to come from within the locker room. Now, what I will say is the flip side of what you're saying, which is you're taking a risk if you're Ryan Poles, is you could also stand up there and say, we had the number 1 pick in the draft. We traded out. We got a ton of stuff in return for it, and we still got the best player in the entire class, which everyone universally agrees that he is. If Bryce Young was 6'3", he'd be the best player in this class.
Yes.
Because he isn't, Jalen Carter is the best football player in the 2023 draft. You need to make it work with a young man who I think is going to need, as I said, really strong leadership. If you can figure out a way to do that, then you may very well have had one of the great draft nights ever by turning that pick into a player who, realistically you could have taken number one overall a few months ago.
Yes.
and turned it into all the things they turned it into.
And for the record, I would not let a lack of experience keep me from drafting Jalen Carter if, in fact, I'm Ryan Poles and I've come to terms with who he is and I feel good about him in my building. I'm not suggesting I would go away from him. I just wonder his comfort level in a situation like that. It's going to be interesting to see how it unfolds.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. But his agent, this is not news. I mean, everyone knows this. His agent canceled all of his interviews after 10 in the draft and said there's no way in the world he lasts past 10. So, you're asking me, the scuttle here is that, let's put it this way. I think more people here think it's likelier that he falls past 9 than that he goes before 9.
Wow.
Now, again, those people could be completely wrong. All that you could be watching this thing when he goes, 5 to Seattle or 6 to. I don't think he's going to Seattle, but goes somewhere higher. You guys could be laughing.
Detroit at 6.
Greeny wrong again, and I could easily be, but that's not. That's what I'm expecting is that he is still there at 9.
That would be an amazing night for us, and we're going to be at the official Bears party at Soldier Field, and we're giving away tickets here in about 15 minutes from right now. Greeny joining us from Kansas City, Missouri, which he's made a big deal about on the show, and also I know on the plane, the pilot even got that wrong as well. Greeny,
the pilot actually said, for those who didn't see it, he said, all right, sorry, we're a little delayed getting out of here. We had a little crew change issue, but we're ready to go now. We're expecting a smooth ride to Kansas. And he just stopped there. And I thought to myself, is that okay? If the pilot doesn't know what state we're going to, and then I looked around me and not one other person seemed to react at all. And I thought to myself, am I on the wrong plane? Is something going on here I don't know about? So everything turned out fine. Actually, Will Levis was seated next to me on the plane, and I can tell you right now, that kid looks like a linebacker. He is monstrous. I can't begin to tell you how big Will Levis is.
What did you chat Will Levis up on your way to Kansas City?
I didn't say a word. He was wearing headphones and watching. I can tell you what he was watching, if this matters. He was watching the show Barry on an iPad.
Oh, great, yeah.
He was watching that on an iPad. I didn't realize it was him at first, and then I kept looking at him, and because he was wearing a hat, and I kept thinking, I think that's Will Levis. And then as we were departing, when he took his suitcase down from the overhead compartment, it had a Kentucky logo on it, and it said Levis. So I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I figured it out then. But so I did not talk with him at all, but I did look at him, and he is big.
I had this request to Louis Riddick when he joined us last week, and you're the quarterback of the draft coverage. As Greeny's got the coverage tomorrow on ESPN. Can you talk to the producers and the directors and not be in a commercial break at the 9th pick?
Zero chance we'll be in a commercial break. I mean, we're not. It's never supposed to happen. The league knows when the broadcasts are in commercial. There are 3 networks that do it live. The NFL Network does it, ABC does it, and we do it on ESPN. That should never happen.
Okay,
so
good.
If that happens, that's that might be. I don't know what to tell you, but that should absolutely never happen. Can I bounce a line off you guys and tell me if it works? I tried it in rehearsal. We just had a rehearsal of the first couple of picks, and in our rehearsal, just for the sake of having something to do, we had Bryce Young go number 1, and we had Will Anderson go number 2. And, what happens after a player is picked is that we roll a little highlight, and the musical accompaniment is Sweet Home Alabama. And, of course, it is because they're both Alabama players. So it was for Bryce Young, and then it was for Will Anderson again. And I turned to the 3 guys, and I said, well, so far, gentlemen, there's no question the early big winner of the night is Leonard Skinner. And then they told me to go to a break by talking about the quarterbacks who were still available. And I said, but C.J. Stroud, Anthony Richardson, and Will Levis are still free as a bird. Who will take them? We'll find out next.
Look at you.
Now, is that because I can tell you that Mel, Lewis, and Booger all looked at me like I had 3 heads and didn't get it at all. So it made me very nervous about whether that's like, if I say that, is that A, funny and clever, B, cause for people to start writing letters to the network saying, get this idiot off of the draft? Which one is that?
I think it depends on where you live on either side of the Mason-Dixon line. I think it really kind of probably plays out. I love it. I think it's great.
Isn't it better when not everyone gets a line, though?
Not in my experience, no. I have generally found that when everyone immediately reacts with raucous laughter, that's usually my favorite reaction.
That's great. You've told us in the past how much being part of this coverage really means to you. How jazzed up do you get for this?
It's my favorite assignment of the year, by far. I love having a daily TV show. I love having a daily radio show. I adore hosting NBA Countdown with these legends that I work with. And, doing the finals last year was like actually saying the words, welcome to ABC's coverage of Game 1 of the NBA Finals was genuinely one of the great thrills of my life. And I've said many times, one of my true regrets is that my dad didn't live to hear that, because it was one of the proudest moments I've ever had. But for fun, this is by far the most fun event. It's so unpredictable. I just love it. I love the energy. We're supposed to have 300,000 people out here tomorrow. The weather looks like it's going to be good. I love the NFL, so I absolutely love everything about this event. And I've been waiting for this for a year, because I did not think I did my best last year. And if you guys have a second, I'll tell you what. So my first year I did it, I thought it went really well. I was really happy with it. And the way it went was that basically every team took their full allotted 10 minutes in round 1. So I got very used to that cadence. Like, the pick is made. We have time to react to it. I have time to reset. I have time to say, okay, here's the next team, and we can predict who they might take. And there was all this time. And so in my mind, because that was the only time I'd ever done it, I thought, okay, that's what this experience is. Terrific. And I went into it last year expecting that. And then last year, you might recall, the picks came so fast. Like we were, the first pick had been made, and as Mel is still, like, in the first 15 seconds of giving his reaction, I get in my ear from the producer, the envelope is in 60 seconds to the commissioner. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm not ready in 60 seconds. I got 8 million other things I'm planning to do. And it kept going like that. And it took me, I want to say, like 8 picks or so to sort of get comfortable in that rhythm, because it kept happening. And, of course, the first 8 picks are the most important ones. Obviously, I don't mean that this way because Chicago has the 9th pick, but you know what I mean. Like, the very beginning is the most important part. And I didn't ever feel like I felt like I kind of blew the first hour. Or at least I didn't do as well as I wanted to do. And I watched it back, and it's never as bad as you think it was. But I want to be at my best in this event, because it's the biggest event that I do. And so I've been waiting a year for another shot at this, and I am as prepared as a person could possibly be to do anything, and I'm really excited for it.
We will have show notes for you on Monday.
Oh, yeah. Review.
Be kind.
Yes. And then as we let you go, Greeny, Waddle makes fun of me because he knows I love a good shout-out. And he always rips me when we get a shout-out, and I'm over the moon for it.
Don't you dare beg for a shout-out on draft coverage.
No, I'm not. I'm asking him when he got the shout-out from Aaron Rodgers, even though you are in a different world, a different stratosphere than we are. You probably don't go crazy for a shout-out, but when Aaron Rodgers mentions your name and you get a shout-out in his welcome press conference, is that something that still is pretty cool to you?
Pretty cool. That's a top 3 moment of my life. I'm trying to figure out how to make it a ringtone. That's what I'm trying. I don't know how to do that. I posted that on Twitter. If anyone knows how to do that, tweet at me at ESPN Greeny. How does one turn that into a ringtone? Are you kidding? I mean, cool. That's one of the greatest things I've ever heard in my entire life.
Okay, good. Good.
Wow, somebody's going to be mad in your house because you're married and you have 2 kids, and you said it was a top 3 moment. So I would think maybe outside the top 3, but hey, you do you, man.
No. None of those make it even. none of those go above this. This is Aaron Rodgers. I mean, it's not fooling around here. I mean, I'm quite fond of all the people you just named, but this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking about.
That is awesome. Greeny, we always appreciate the friendship and you always making time for us before this big event. We appreciate it so much.
Yep.
Thank you and
Knock
have a
it
great
out of the park.
broadcast. All right.
But I'm going to try and get that. I'm going to try and get Waddle and Sylvie in on the draft tomorrow night. If the Bears do take Jalen Carter, I see a good opening there. Like something like, look, because I know Lewis loves you guys too. Something like, listen, if this thing goes really badly, all the callers to Waddle and Sylvie on ESPN 1000, they're going to be up in arms. Like I could see that working out. If we have a little time and space. See, again, this is going to be one of those where if I'm getting in my ear, the next pick is already in, then we're racing, But if we have a little space after after the Bears pick whoever it is, I'll try and make that happen.
All
That's
I can
awesome.
say is that would be the equivalent. You giving Sylvie a shout out at the draft would be the equivalent of Aaron Rodgers giving you a shout out as well.
Oh, yeah. That's the same thing.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know about that, but I'll do the best I can.
Greeny, have a great broadcast.
Thanks,
Thank
Greeny.
you.
All right, guys. Thanks, fellas. See you soon.
He's the best. There's
Awesome.
Mike Greenberg. Yeah. I wasn't begging for it. I was actually asking about his
You were
shout
hoping
out.
for it, though.
Yeah.
I know. You're going to hope for it.
Planting a seed,
Yeah,
maybe.
planting a seed,
Not
yes.
begging, maybe planting a seed.
Absolutely.
All right, coming up next, we've got those tickets to the Bears draft party. We've got to react to that, too,
Yeah.
that he said Jalen Carter,